before I had kids, or around the time that I had kids, I remember reading some articles in Modern Drummer and things like that, where like drummers like Peter Erskine and Steve Gadd and these guys would talk about how having kids would change them as drummers. And I think one thing it does is just, I think when you have kids, there's just it just strikes a certain, it goes deeper to your core, so you feel more, I think. I was just at a party the other night, an anniversary party, and this one guy that I know, he started breaking down, like just getting choked up when he was talking about his family. And, he said, I never used to cry as much before I had kids, and it's just because it strikes a certain nerve within you, and I think that comes through with your playing. I know that for myself, that over the years, my playing has actually gotten, I guess you would say, a little bit simpler. I focus on more simple things, and I think one reason for that is because when you're trying to explain things to children, a lot of times you can't use all kinds of verbiage and like go on and on and on about it. You have to be pretty clear, you have to be pretty direct, and so I think that's kind of carried over to my playing. And the other part of it is too, is I think like with kids, especially when they're younger, your life is always kind of like, a little crazy, and you're moving around from here to here to here, so then when you actually get to play your instrument, it's kind of more of just like a sort of like moment, as opposed to now I'm going to sit down and play lots of crazy 30-second notes with my hands and my feet kind of thing. As far as what goes into it, there's probably a lot more downtime than most people would think. For the very first video that we ever did, which was for Polyamorous off the first album, Saturate, it was a pretty elaborate production. It was in Los Angeles. We were recording Saturate there, but it was just a lot of catering, a lot of makeup. And then we just had different scenes in which we were playing in an empty swimming pool. I was playing the drums in the living room, and just a whole bunch of different things. And then they just ultimately take it and put it all together. Now, when we did a video for something like So Cold, then there we had a couple different treatments to choose from, and we were able to pick it. But I think one of the things that we tried to do was we wised up a little bit and realized that if you're not careful, the record companies can really go crazy with the amount of money that they want to spend on these things. And the reality of it is that if you're not aware of this, then you end up pretty much paying all this money back. So if you're not careful, then the record company can really set that bar really high in terms of finances, and then you're responsible to pay it all back.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, if you have a video shoot that you're doing $250,000, that's money that you're pretty much paying back. So we got a little bit wiser as we went along, and just knew what we wanted to do and what we didn't want to do. I think they really just go hand in hand. There's an article on my website that I wrote where how running and drumming really have a nice correlation with one another. And I think that for just the obvious reasons, just the physical aspect of each and how it can keep your aerobic performance up is good. But I also, as I say in the article, I think it's good that if you have a big gig that day, running is a great stress reliever. So if you run, when you get to that performance that night, you don't quite feel so much anxiety or adrenaline pumping. There's those elements of it. But I was actually running about a week ago, and when I got finished, it's something I had thought of before, but this particular day it really rung true for me, is that I think for all musicians, that one thing running really does, because it really gets your heart rate up, is that it really opens up your ears a lot. So there's oftentimes now when I'm listening to music, especially on the day of a run, where I can hear things that I just might not always be able to, because things are a little bit more clear to me. Things are a little bit more open, as opposed to just, it's not all the static, of static of the world, so to speak. I would say to be versatile, to be able to fit in with a number of different situations if you want to work. I would say to be able to get along with other people. It doesn't mean that you always have to be the yes man. You don't have to be Jim Carrey. You don't have to always be the yes guy. But the ability to just hang, to be able to be around people. I mean, if you're on tour, you're around, it's like having an external family, an extended family where you're around people all the time. So you can't be somebody, I think all musicians to a certain degree are eccentric people, We all have our own idiosyncrasies, but being able to just, hang and chill and, be able to take direction. So if you're working with an artist who's looking for something particular, you have to be able to respond to what their needs are. So those are just some of the things. When I would record the Breaking Benjamin albums, my whole thing was that if I got done with a take, and if there was a part that maybe I didn't play all that well, I knew right away what that part was. So I would always just ask if I could go back and play the song again. Of course I punched in a couple things here and there, but my whole thing was that I wanted my performance to be a complete performance from me and not something that a producer or an engineer or whomever manipulated. So they didn't take the best verse that I played and make that the same for every verse, or the best chorus, and piecemeal their way through and make an actual performance, because there's no life in that. As far as some sound samples and everything, the reality of it is that in most these popular and heavier music, most mixers have sounds and things like that they like. So they're usually going to replace some of the sounds to some degree because they have a sound for a certain reason. The guy that mixed both of our records that I was on with Breaking Benjamin, Chris Lord Algae, he's known for a certain sound. People have him mix their records because he has a certain sound. So that when you're going into it, you're going to get your product back with a certain sound. I just simply love everything about it. I love the fact that you can never stop improving, that there's always something to practice, but also too, the one thing I really enjoy about music is that music is really a great way of communication in which you can express yourself. A lot of times words don't do justice with how you feel about a certain subject or something that you want to express or convey, and music is always that place that you can go to that has that deeper element going on, that if you're happy, you're sad, whatever. And I love connecting with people on that level. So whether it's practicing, performing, listening, studying, everything about being a musician. And then the other part is that to be able to make your living and do something that you love to do is, I think, everybody's goal, or it's something they aspire to do. So I just love the fact that I can do what I love to do, and people are willing to pay me for it. I'm going to start doing more recording sessions at my house, just where I'm going to be doing more tracks. I do studio work right now, but I'm looking at getting things expanded a little bit at my home, where I'm going to be able to have people send me tracks to do from. So those are the ways in which I'm going to be using technology. I'm looking for a lot of growth from Into the Spin. A lot of my focus and attention will be placed on that, and just continuing in the education field, learning as much as I can. So personally, so I can continue to raise the bar, not only individually, but for that of my students as well.